Thank you, Senator Ludlam. Senator Singh.
Thank you. I rise also to contribute to this and in support of this motion by the opposition, and to discuss in the process the future of Australian creativity and the uncertain fate of many thousands of jobs, careers and creative contributions in our Australian community. Because when we discuss this government's taking of $104 million from the Australian Council for the Arts and returning only $32 million, or less than a third, as part of Minister Fiefield's new partial arts funding backflip, it's those many thousands of jobs, careers and creative contributions that are really at stake. And when we discuss this government taking arts funding decisions out of the hands of qualified independent experts, a process that has worked very well for many, many years in this country, instead making final decisions by ministerial decree with all the political interference and favouritism that that invites, again, it's those many thousands of jobs, careers and creative contributions of those creative individuals that are at stake. And again, when we discuss this government's callous exclusion of individual artists from accessing its newly rebadged funding pool, it's those many thousands of jobs and careers and creative individuals, again, their livelihoods and their future contribution to our creative industries are at stake. The small to medium arts sector in Australia is currently on its knees. A huge swath of that arts sector's federal funding through the Australia Council has been removed and instead placed in a separate fund, now known, as of last week, as Catalyst, under the Arts Minister's ultimate control. And whilst independent assessors will make recommendations and guidelines, I think 3 independent assessors from a pool of 300 on that program, the guidelines itself state explicitly that the Minister for the Arts, or delegate in the department, will make the final decision regarding any funding awarded. So thanks to these changes, small to medium arts groups are now racked with uncertainty and unable to plan ahead. And despite the so-called change from the MPEA process under the previous minister to this new program called Catalyst, there is still the minister's discretion to make the final decision on what arts programs and to what arts groups funding will be provided. That, I think, lacks deeply in any kind of accountability and transparency. It gives the minister an incredible amount of power at his whim to make decisions about funding to the arts in this country. On top of that, not only are small to medium arts groups now in an incredible space of uncertainty, lacking stability, but they've also been pitted against each other, competing for significantly reduced Australia Council funds. When it comes to recovering the lost funding via the minister's new discretionary fund, they're faced with a very restricted and politicised new system that they know little about and which seems unfairly stacked against them. These challenges are most severe in my home state of Tasmania, where virtually the entire arts sector is classified as small to medium. And it's no exaggeration to say the entire health and well-being of artists of the arts community is threatened as well by these changes. The new Arts Minister will now bear almost sole responsibility for the imminent collapse of any small to medium arts groups following the revelations we had this morning in a Senate committee hearing with the Ministry for the Arts. We learned this morning that Minister Fifield had one last chance to do the right thing to the Australian small to medium arts community, and inexplicably he has failed to do so. The Executive Director of the Minister for the Arts, Sally Besser, this morning appeared before the Senate Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee inquiry into the impact of the 2014-15 Commonwealth budget decision on the arts, and in her efforts she informed senators about the new system as much as she was aware of it, and imposed on the Ministry of the Arts, on the department. But in considering how to unscramble this mess created by first the former minister and now the current minister, Minister Fifield, Ms Spasser confirmed that Minister Fifield was presented with a range of bureaucratic options. He was presented with a range of options. Now, one of those options would have been and was to return the funding to the Australia Council. Now, we know that that is the option that in the some 300 or more submissions put to this government, the arts sector in this country were calling for. That is, returning the full $104 million to the Australia Council, not having this separate administrated fund out of the Ministry of the Arts, having a transparent, accountable process that the Australia Council provides by having independent experts evaluate each submission. But no, that was not the choice, obviously, that the minister made. He decided to kind of tweak the former minister's MPEA program, create his new program, give it a new name, Catalyst, and there we have it. We're still pretty much in a similar position than we were under the previous minister. There may be some slight reprieve. Yes, the Australia Council has been given $8 million a year back to its bottom line, but that is in no way near the $104 million that it has lost and that it has been able to provide to some 148 small to medium Australian arts companies, as well as 28 major organisations that have currently been funded by the Australia Council. And despite the evidence showing that between 2010 and 2012, those 148 small to medium companies produced 2,897 new Australian works, which equates to 88% of the body of work, while the majors produced 299 new works, which equates to 12%. Ms Spasser again confirmed that there are no guarantees that small to medium groups will receive the majority of the Catalyst funding. And despite being pressured to nominate a token budget restoration of $8 million, the Australia Council for the Arts still faces an incredible funding shortfall that will hit individuals and small applicants hard, particularly individuals, because they indeed have been left out of being able to apply for the Catalyst funding themselves. Australia's small to medium arts sector has made it very clear that funding decisions should be made by independent experts, not by a political slush fund at the minister's whim. Independent experts, that is what is currently provided by the Australia Council through a very transparent process. So I do give some credit to Minister Fifield in his partial backflip, but it has not nearly gone far enough. It was a step in the right direction, Minister, but you need to take it a little bit further. It's not enough to restore certainty and stability to the small to medium arts sector. It is only returning a third of the funding out of the Australia Council back to the Australia Council, which will have a detrimental impact on individuals, on small to medium arts companies and groups, which are the backbone and the majority of contributors to our arts sector in this country. And of course, the majority of that funding is still going to be allocated to the minister's own final political whim through his own allocated fund known as Catalyst, instead of having a transparent process by independent experts. Now, I agree that the arts community has found it's found its voice through this process. It's found its strength through this process, but it shouldn't have had to have gone through this. There is an incredibly vibrant community that came together with vigour, colour, love and passion for what they create and what they provide to Australia, a creative voice, our creativity that makes Australia such a beautiful place to live. I do not want to see that creativity put in jeopardy. I'm urging the Minister to take this a step further and restore funding to the Australia Council for the Arts.
Thank you, Senator.